I'm Stephen Baudoin. I'm running for Town Council, Division A. Several people that had approached me about running for council or even mayor, and I initially was not interested at all in politics, to be honest. Once I retired, I looked back and I said, I've lived all these years in this community, and I'm still alive, I'm still kicking, I still got a little energy. So I felt that I wanted to try to contribute something to help the town progress and grow. So I said, well, let's take a look at it. And like I said, running for mayor was never my interest. So 4 years ago, I decided to run for council. Now, that was 4 years ago, and here we are again looking at another election for the next 4 years. And I decided I wanted to continue, and I'm hopeful that the voters will permit me to do that. And the reason for the additional 4 years is that I feel that we need to try to finish some things that we started, and try to get some new things going as well. So I guess you can say that what I see as far as my contribution is not finished. I think the town officials, myself, if I'm reelected, needs to get with and work with the Council of Governments is what it's called, and actively participate into that. So that is one of the things. In the meantime, we can look at other things, and one of the things that, in order to get businesses to come, quite frankly, Lockport needs to dress up. By dressing up, I mean it needs to do a facelift. You come down Highway 1 and you come into Lockport, and we see a lot of businesses that physically not as attractive as they used to be. We need to encourage those businesses and property owners to clean up. But it's not only the businesses. If we want to attract people and businesses, we got to do a facelift not only of the corporate buildings and properties, but the personal ones. We got much too many trash. I hate to use that word, but we got trash in yards. We got buildings that are deteriorating, unlivable. And if we can create individually, create a better image of ourselves, I think we're going to have a great or better chance of attracting businesses to come. Because businesses want to go where where they see potential, where they see growth. And it's like when you were young, and you had your eye on that special gal or that special boy, and you wanted to get noticed. Well, you put on some nicer clothes, and you put on a little perfume or cologne. You dressed up. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be fake, but you just present yourself in a better light. So I think that is one other thing as far as business development and just self-satisfaction. When you feel good about yourself, you are good about yourself. You just get that mentality. So I think that's another ingredient as far as business development that we can do. Well, first of all, I think we have to get a better definition of what is a business. What do we classify as a true business? And people may say that that's a very simple question, but it's not. You think about the 16-year-old boy in the neighborhood that cuts grass, he's getting paid. So is he a business? Well, I really don't think so. but it could be argued that way. Or if not a young 16-year-old, how about someone that is currently out of work and cutting grass? Is that a business? I think we need to decide, again, what is a business? What is classified as a true business? So the first thing, I guess, is to get a better definition. And I think we also need to look at the licensing fees. we need to review that, be fair, be equitable, and once we have that, come up with something new as far as the ordinances and the requirements. Now, the next thing is an enforcement. That is, that needs to follow, because if you have the laws and you don't enforce it, there's no use of having them. So, number one, I'd say go back and redefine or review, at least in the minimum, what is a business, and let's look at those fees, and then make sure that enforcement is complied with. Zoning laws the town has have been modified over the years, and it has, I don't think any real long-range planning was, well, initially long-range planning was put into that, but I think it's lost that emphasis. There has been changes, there's been inconsistencies, there's been some conflicts in what we currently have. That too needs to be reviewed. Now, that is not as simple as reading it and say, okay, we need to make some changes. Nothing in government is that quick, nothing in government is that simple. That's one of the things I learned the last 4 years. And I don't care who's in there or who's not, it's not going to be anything different. It's time consuming and it's involved. But to get back to the zoning, I don't want to say that it needs to be rewritten, but it's going to come close to that, I believe. I think a committee needs to be formed, some council people, some members of the general public, and review that, the existing ordinances, and factor in, number one, the changes that have occurred since those things were first put in, and look at the direction where we want. What does the people want of the community? Do we want trailers? Do we want campus? And I think that there's a place for both those, and the residential and the commercial and the other various zones. But we have to, again, more definition or clarification and definition. I think when we make these changes, we definitely have to grandfather in what's there. I mean, you can't force people to move a building or close a building or whatever. We have to accommodate that, but it needs to be relooked. It completely redone. I've looked at it in the last 4 years, and quite frankly, it is a nightmare. You can read something one place and you get this definition, and you read something else and it tells you something else. That's conflicting stuff. A committee needs to be formed. Lockport has a drug problem, no question. There's probably more of it than we know of. How do we fight it? Number one, I think we need to be good neighbors. And by that I mean, if we see or hear things, we need to report it. Number one and foremost, we need to support and back our police department. And that's one of the things that I've done, especially in the last 2 years, is try to support them, make sure that they have the funds to operate. The town police department is 3/4 of the solution. You know, the other quarter is the individual citizens, you know, taking an active part. Now, when I say active, I'm not talking about them, you know, confronting people with drugs, but about drugs, but you know, let the community know that, you know, we don't stand for that. We don't want that. Report what you can report, but at the same time, remember the police department is limited. Limited in that they may know, they may believe you 100% as to what you're reporting, but in order to arrest somebody, they have to have hard evidence. They're not going to arrest somebody just because it seems like or what have you. They want concrete proof. They want to make sure that when they arrest, it stands up in court. So it's to get the evidence and get the documentation to convict. And hopefully, you know, these people can get help. So I think what we as a town and as a community can do is give our guys, well, yes, we had one female officer at one time, but it's all guys now. Give them our support. You know, whether it's financially, with the town providing the resources, or just a thanks, let them know we're behind them. Because if you can show where you're supporting them, that's encouraging them to do even better than they do. And I'm not saying they're not doing good, but they can always an opportunity for improvement. And I think that's what really what we need to do first of all. Make sure they have the equipment by the funding and all the other stuff. But as citizens, back them. What things Lockport may be wrong, going in the wrong direction, is being a part of the negative aspects, Facebook being one, but the communications among by other social media and in the interactions with our fellow neighbors and communities. I think it's more of an attitude problem. Also, Lockport has to believe in itself. The community has to have faith in themselves, their government, their police, and it needs to communicate. Our communication is not good in my books. So communication via Facebook, you know, or via other social media, or whatever avenues of communication that, you know, people may come up with. That's what we need to do. And in line with that, I may be getting a little ahead of myself here, but in line with that, people need to not rely on, and when I say people, myself included, we need to not rely on what we hear, what we read, what we see. I mean, those things are important, but don't rely on that, because a lot of times, especially with the news media, I mean, I've listened to one channel and about a situation that they're reporting on, a current situation, and boy, it's this way. You turn to another one, it's the entire opposite. And that is infiltrated not only on the national level. I mean, we're hearing that right now because of the elections, but it's not only that, it's on everything. So I think people need to go back and question what they hear, see, smell, whatever. However they get their information, question it and do research on it. You know, we live in a society where we look for a quick solution. Technology has brought vast things and information to us, but it's not always accurate. It's always, at least to me, dang near all of it's cited. And is it, you know, is it as accurate? No. We don't have news no more. We have commentary and we have editorial. And a lot of it's based on hearsay. So I think, you know, individually, that's one of the things that not only Lockport, but I think this whole country needs to look at. We have two museums. We have the Town of Lockport Museum, although it's really for not just the town, but it's I always called it the Town Museum, but it covers the Lafourche area. And we also have the Boat Museum, but we also have a third item that somewhat related in my books, and that's the Playhouse. Those are three assets that the town has that it needs to, the people, the town itself, need to nourish. The two museums maintain, it's an archive. It maintains our history, our culture. I think not only people from afar that may be interested in our area, but our children need to be afforded the opportunity to periodically visit those two. And the Playhouse I put in there for the simple reason that it's a cultural thing. A community is not just the buildings and the people and the government. It's the whole makeup of what there's around us. And we need parks, we need the recreation, we need the cultural aspects. So I throw in the Playhouse in this too. The Playhouse and the Boat Museum are both leasing the properties that they use from the town. The town owns it. The other museum is owned by the organization, and the town really doesn't have anything associated with it, but town still needs to support it. Just recently, I say recently, a few months ago, the Playhouse and the Boat Museum approached the town about help because of COVID. You know, they really can't operate, especially the Playhouse. I mean, you know, you got to stay distance in your theater seats. How you do that? You know, so they're really hurting. And the Boat Museum as well. And then they approached the town about maybe some consideration and help. One of the things that when the council was approached, I think everyone on board was in favor of giving some assistance to them. Problem is state law. State law restricts what you can help because they're not actually part of the town. They're leasing the property of the town, but they're separate operations. And then even if it was a government agency of some type, there's still regulations about helping each other. So anyhow, we were willing to do something, and but we ran into a brick wall. And I'm the one I think that came up with, you know, there's got to be some sort of method. I didn't have the solution, but I knew there had to be some sort of solution. And ultimately, we found out that a cooperative agreement could be a potential avenue. In short, that's what we ended up doing. And in essence, what we did is we reduced substantially the rental that they pay. And both of them were appreciative and thought that that would be a big help. So how can we help the museums? Well, that's one of the things that we've done. We probably will need to look at that again. Hopefully COVID is over with and they can restart and expand their programs and not need that assistance. And all of this comes at a cost to the town, because you know, we have to insure the buildings and we have to do some maintenance on it and all that. So it's right now I'm not saying it's a money maker for the town, because it's not, but it's something that, because of the nature of those two operations, the town had to assist. So I think we need to continue. They both said that they were going to keep us posted as to how their situation develops. Hopefully soon, some improvement. Now, the Lockport Museum, I think that's a separate operation. There's really no association with the town, other than they're in town and they have a lot of artifacts of town and the history of the town. I think what we can do is try to help promote that particular function, but I think they need to also be able to try to do some type of promotional. One of the avenues that I think that we can do is maybe try to assist them with the Tourist Commission in the parish. I know there is some programs that they're involved with already. Perhaps maybe we can assist them in developing more of or utilizing more resources that the Tourist Commission could give. But definitely those three are really important things. History to me is history tells you where you were, and it tells you what mistakes you made and what good things you done, and it gives you direction where to go. And unfortunately, I don't think schools are teaching kids enough history, but that's just my opinion. But anyhow, those types of organizations supplement what's lacking elsewhere. So we need to keep them going. I ask that everyone go out and exercise their privilege and right of voting. Regardless of how you vote, go out and vote. That's your voice. That's your opportunity to say something. But when you do that, I ask that you do one more thing, and that is to vote smart. And what I mean by that is, don't just go and vote based on what you hear. I mentioned earlier, you know, what we hear, what we see, what we pick up with our senses don't always tell us the true facts. Go and do some research. Don't be lazy. There's nothing wrong with getting other people's opinions. That's great. But get to the facts. Get and understand truly what's happening. Whether it's the town election or the president and the vice president, it's immaterial. Don't believe what you hear. Do your homework. I think that's crucial, not for me, but for you, each of you that vote. You need to be informed and properly informed. And nobody's going to give that to you. You have to find it yourself. So take the time, make the effort, and do something good for yourself. I hope that when you do that, that you will be voting number 90. That's my number on the ballot. And I hope to be able to serve for another 4 years and get some things done for the town. I thank you for your the Rodrigue Productions for their concept of this method of speaking with the citizens. I hope all the candidates are taking an opportunity to do the same thing that I'm doing here, because it is one method of keeping you informed with direct contact without actually physical contact. You know, with this COVID, it really messed up so much in our daily lives, and I'm appreciative that Rodrigue Productions have come up with one avenue that can help you decide and be informed to make a smart vote. Thank you for your time.